2023. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Madam Clerk, would you please read the special meeting notice followed by roll call?
Certainly. Members of the Town Board, special Town Board meeting, Thursday, July 20th, 2023, 10:30 a.m. Please be advised that pursuant to Section 62 of Town Law, a special Town Board meeting will be held both in person in the Town Board Meeting Room, Southampton Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, New York, and via video conferencing on Thursday, July 20th, 2023 at 10:30 a.m. for the purpose of considering the following. Notice of public hearing to enact a new Chapter 314 entitled Moratorium on Battery Energy Storage Systems. Also authorize emergency rental of tractors for waste management. J. Schneiderman, Supervisor, dated July 17th, 2023. Supervisor Schneiderman.
Present.
Councilwoman McNamara.
Present.
Councilman Martell.
Present.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Scavone.
Present.
Thank you. Okay, before we go to public portion, I just want the board to note that on the second resolution, there is a substitution. This is the emergency rental of tractors and container services for waste management. So you should have the substitution. It's ID number 43877. All right, so we'll do that later. But we'll start with public portion. This is a hybrid meeting, so we both have an audience here at Town Hall as well as online. Also, first I'll go to Town Hall. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in public portion? Ms. Doyle? Okay, well, Bonnie got there first, so.
Not that I'm always thrilled to be up here. Bonnie Doyle, 8 Lawrence Avenue in Hampton Bays. And I'm here to say thank you for those who have agreed that this BESS installation in a residential area is a very poor idea. And as time goes on, we discover more and more why it is such a terrible idea and why it shouldn't be there specifically. We had a rainstorm during the last week. It was a very heavy rainstorm, but it wasn't something that went on and on forever. However, the flooding that occurred off of exit 66 and on Old North Highway, or North Road rather, was really pretty scary. There were cars stopped. They stopped the traffic. There were cars that had water up to their wheels, and we have videos of it. I'm sorry I can't show it today, but if you want to see them, we can certainly do that to you. But just to let you know that you do know this, that this is not considered a flood zone, but when you look at a situation like this, you understand that this has absolute potential. It didn't rain that long, and actually on my street, it floods all the time. It doesn't even need what we had, and the video shows my street as well. So please keep this in mind, that this is yet another thing that is kind of scary. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you for keeping an open mind on voting on this situation. We appreciate the ability to speak and what you're doing here for us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, but that's all. I'll wait till the end.
Anyone else for public portion? Margaret, no?
Sure. I didn't know there was going to be a public portion.
It's always a public portion. At all
It's a
town.
special town board meeting.
At all town board, not work sessions, but we're in the special meeting, so yes, there's a
Okay, great.
public portion.
I'm Margaret Friedlander. I'm a resident of Hampton Bays. I'm also running for Southampton Town Trustee, speaking as a resident regarding the BESS. I appreciate you guys are seriously discussing and putting forward a moratorium, and at least one of 6 months. I think that's the right thing to do. I've submitted letters. I've submitted the presentation to you that I made at the Hampton Bays Civic Association. I don't put myself forward as a subject matter expert, but I've read hundreds of documents, spent lots of hours, And it's my opinion that I support the idea of green adjacent technology. I understand what it is. I understand the reason for it in terms of net zero emissions and our challenges with climate change. But based on my research, and I think because you guys are reconsidering your position and looking into a moratorium, all the literature speaks to inherent risks. And I think the people who are assessing that risk will have differing opinions based on their role and responsibility, what authority they belong to. But I am absolutely opposed to this in residential zoning. And even if it's in highway zoning, such as the yet-to-be, who knows, subject site over at, I believe it's 302 or 306 West Montauk Highway near Tortorella's, that's still within very close proximity to residences. So I appreciate you guys doing that. I also recently revisited the Suffolk County staff report on BESS, and they did mention, and I'm not going to recall, of course, the acronym, but the PSEG consideration of people, a fairness to a certain group in the community based on their economic standing, their racial demographic, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know if that was part or included in any consideration set, so you may want to address that as well during the time of the moratorium. So
The PEJA, the Potential
PEJA,
Environmental Justice.
thank you, yeah. So again, I think the community has spoken up. I think the community, before and post my presentation of the Civic, and the objectives of that was to inform the community, make them aware of what the technology was, why it existed, the difference between battery energy storage for e-bikes and cars versus a grid scale battery, and that's what I'm speaking about, grid scale battery. A lot of people cite the recent incident at the battery energy storage system in East Hampton, but that's, I believe, a 50 megawatts or kilohertz or however they call it, facility, and not near the grid scale that we're talking about. But even then, the Long Island Railroad had to be closed and the road shut down. So if I recall correctly, even the applicant from the Southampton Canal BESS and even Key Capture, no one will ever say never. They just won't, and they're right to do that. So all I could say is, if we reconsider where these are zoned, hopefully a light industrial, again, away from residences, environmentally sensitive areas, bodies of water, public gathering places, and I know that is hard when you have a densely populated area like the East End of Long Island, and the entire United States is facing this challenge as well.
30
But
seconds.
technology is evolving. There are flow batteries that some universities that are focusing on this subject matter are looking at. So if we were to zone it somewhere, it's built, and in, I'd say, 5 to 10 years with no incidents, maybe we revisit it. I don't know. But I still would even hesitate, especially with a location near residences, the Shinnecock, which is Bay, which is now a hope spot. So we really need to be steadfast stewards and also protect the public and environmental safety. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Margaret. Anyone else? All right, we'll move to our online audience. Is there anyone watching from a remote location who wishes to be heard during public portion? If so, click the raise hand icon normally found at the bottom of your screen.
I see no hands.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close public portion.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, to resolution. So the first resolution is 907 of 2023. This is a notice of public hearing to enact a new chapter 314 entitled Moratorium on Battery Energy Storage Systems. It's co-sponsored by the entire town board. This would set a public hearing on August 8th at 1 p.m. in this room, as well as hybrid. to consider a 6-month moratorium on all new applications, as well as a freeze on current processing of applications. So it affects the one proposal that the planning board is currently reviewing. And, it would give the town 6 months to analyze the public safety concerns, the evacuation concerns, public health and safety, and modify our code if that is what our findings dictate, that it could render the canal site non-compliant or not. We don't know. There might be different reviews for different scales. I don't know what the future holds, other than we would have an independent review of it. I would ask the board, if we're going to pause this for 6 months, as I think we should, that we don't just sit back, that we immediately bring in some expertise to look at our code, and if it's insufficient to protect public health and safety, then we have to modify the code. So, all right. Do we have a second on this?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. Any additional discussion on it? I think that based on what we heard on an earlier version of a moratorium, a 3-month version that did not include pending applications, there's a substantial number of people who are deeply concerned about fire, noise, air pollution, water contamination, catastrophic failure, and how that could affect, the 3 exit routes, the train, as well as Montauk Highway and Sunrise Highway. And, there are people who are not sleeping at night. There are people who are talking about selling their homes. So whether their concerns are fact-based or not, their concerns are very real and deserve time to get them the answers that they need to feel comfortable. We certainly don't want to be putting anybody at risk. I want to clear up one, I think, confusion that's out there, because we had put, in Genesis here, we had put this code in place, was it 2019, 2020, believing that these systems were relatively benign. But had we not put it in place, what would have happened is somebody could have proposed a battery energy storage. It would have gone to the building department. They would have looked at it likely as a utility. Utilities are allowed in residential zones, commercial zones, throughout the town. And typically utilities are placed near residential because you're delivering the utility to homes, in this case, power to homes. So what we put in place was actually more restrictive than what existed before we put it into place, because this code had additional setbacks. It allowed residential properties, but only if they were a certain size and met certain site characteristics that were commercial in nature. So I just want to get that clarification out that, we didn't open up a door. The door was already open. We actually created something that was a little bit more controlled. And if it's not controlled enough, that's what this moratorium will allow us to do, is put additional controls in place.
That is what happened in Southold, right? There was an
That's pretty much
application
it, yeah.
based on utility, and so they set the moratorium in order to create the code.
Well,
That-
yeah,
right.
Southold didn't have an actual law, so they had to create.
Right.
So they viewed it as a
They were going under
utility.
utility, which was my point, Councilman, and so they put in the moratorium so that they can put in code for
Right.
the locations of these. So we put the code in, and now we're having a moratorium to take a closer look at it. I support the 6-month rather than the 3 months, because it's really not a long time. We've got to get really on this and get to work on it.
Well, I support it because I don't want people to be misled and feel scared. That's what worries me the most. I think it's unfair for people to have that kind of fear, and hopefully this will alleviate some of that. But, don't be misled. Do your own research. Look into it yourselves. But I'm just very concerned that people are so scared and so upset So I think it's good to take a pause and look at the law, see what we can do to change it as per the supervisor. It's a good move forward. So-
I just, again, once again, want to stress that we bring in independent expertise on this issue, and we make fact-based decisions, and that whoever is assisting us in analyzing our code is seen by all sides as independent, that does not have any, skin in the game. It isn't working for some industry or, whatever it might be. That the person or the group is professional and just wants to make sure that we're making decisions based on actual information, actual factual information. So that's gonna take some money. We're gonna have to put some money in, because I don't think in-house we have the ability to answer all these questions. Correct, Janice?
No, we don't have the staff, the safety experts that you're looking for.
And it's very important, as we ask the planning commission, this will have to go to Suffolk County Planning Commission for these 6 months. And I don't know what they'll say. They might send it back to us. It's very important that we are serious about doing the analysis that this time is allowing for us. We can't just do nothing in the 6 months and just say we're just buying time. To impose a moratorium is a serious thing, and it has to be met with a serious review.
And I think too, last night I was at an event in Hampton Bays with Councilman Martell and spoke to a lot of the residents who feel, they've started now doing their own research and they've formed subcommittees and they want to be a part of, crafting the new code so that they can make sure that if it is something that goes into Hampton Bays, they're okay with it. So I think that's really important. I told them to keep doing their work because, it's important that we hear from them. And this time, when the code changes come through, I think everybody will obviously be paying a lot more attention to it. We'll get a lot more feedback from different groups and ideas on where we can cite these, and we'll move forward.
So you want to do like a generic input?
You gotta be here.
So Janice, before you.
I'm just trying to,
before you-
trying to
Excuse me.
prevent Charlie from running out here and.
So I've said this before, this isn't a simple, not in my backyard, I don't want a ball field next to it, I don't want a transfer station next to me. This is something that the residents are truly, truly afraid of. And I've expressed this to the rest of the board, that this is, I see fear, not just concern. And as you look into it and as you read more and more, whether you're getting the right information or wrong information, it does kind of go throughout your body, this feeling of a fear of what could happen. There's always a worst-case scenario going down. So we absolutely, and I've been asking before, and we had a little bit of information from the gentleman from NYSERDA the other day, that we get the right information, that we truly get people that we can trust. Again, outside of town hall is perfect. And then, let's bring the community back into it and really see if that's taking care of their fears. Because at this point, I think it's going to be a really tough road at this location to talk them into this.
I think there's been a learning curve, I think,
Yeah,
for all of us.
for all of us.
Because when we set the code in place, there was this sense that these things were, A, really needed so that we can get more wind power and solar power and address climate change, that they were quiet or silent, and no traffic, they were low-lying, so very limited in terms of visual impacts, and safe. That was the presumption, that they were safe. Then we start hearing about fires in different places, and, the Warwick fire, the East Hampton fire, and yeah, I think that our base of understanding has modified over time as well, and I understand why the public is concerned here. So we want to make sure that whatever code is on our books is adequate to fully protect them. But Janice?
Good morning. Thank you. I just wanted to ask if you think that maybe we should be doing a generic environmental impact statement from what you're sort of saying in this study, because that looks at alternatives. And you do have the option. I mean, we've all been doing our research, right? And there are such things as gravity batteries that do not have any chemicals associated with them. So, I mean, maybe we can look at those alternatives as well as part of all of this, so that, and then I was just going to recommend maybe do a demonstration project at the, you know, a town facility, like we're doing a little solar project at the landfill, why don't we add some batteries? See, people can look at it, see it, you know, it's in our, you know, a small scale thing to get used to it. You know, that might be an
There is a
option.
facility in East Hampton, the one that caught fire, but in a building.
There's
I'd
one
have to look at it.
And I can tell you that when the solar project came to the community was adamant that there not be a battery component to it.
Oh, really? Oh, that's news to
What
me.
is, Janice, what is the reference in the legislation about battery energy storage that,
Town-owned.
is that still,
The town
on municipally owned lands previously initiated by RFP and authorized by the town board of the town of Southampton? Is
There
that the
currently
solar array in North Sea?
No, that's just,
No battery.
honestly, I think it was language from a previous moratorium, but like where we had an RFP going on, you know,
So we
and
actually.
it was in a public
so we're
benefit, so I
exempt-
did add that.
So it's actually where these, it's not a necessary exclusion then,
No, you can take it out.
because there are no battery storage on municipally owned lands previously initiated by RFP and authorized by the town board of the town of Southampton.
I think I shouldn't have written previously, I would say moving forward, but if everybody's gonna be like anti-battery even on public property now, then, I mean,
No, I don't want
you
the
know, that's
public to
po-
fear
you
that
know, I
we're
would
gonna
cross it
sneak
out
in and put
entirely.
it on our property.
No, I'm totally, and we have no plans to, but I was just saying you could do a demonstration project to show it, to showcase a small scale one, so you can hear it, you can see it, you can get used to it.
Well,
Well, that's not-
we can't have a conversation like this, but we could cross that bridge later on if we
But
want
you
to do a
can eliminate
demonstration
that
project. I'd
clause
rather, if somebody's
entirely.
got a full-scale facility, I think people will be willing to go there and see it.
Right.
Board members will travel, and
Mm-hmm.
even public may travel to see. And we can always reach out to members in that community to see how it's affected them.
Right.
So-
So I was also just gonna recommend that we like pull in the CCA administrator, Jewel, who has a lot of information and knowledge about just how the whole grid works, so that we can understand, you know, if we place batteries all the way over here, well, who does that serve, you know, how does this all work? I think that's part of this whole conversation is, you know, if it's located further away, does it still have the same efficacy, or does it serve, or is it just injecting and back in the grid and it doesn't matter where it is? So
it-
that would be
it really
important
does,
information.
And I thank you for that, because it needs to be clarified that our grid is very tight and old, and there are only certain places that you can interconnect power.
Okay,
And
and that's
some of them-
part of that.
And
I
that's
wanna-
part of that.
yeah.
And Jewel, you know, was working on that kind of information when we were looking at the entire CDG program. So they're identified, but, you know, there's a cost when you're farther removed from an interconnect point where it becomes prohibitive for using it. So that's part of the problem. And I think that should be part of this study, is to fold those identified interconnect points into that, so that it makes it clearer to the public where we can and where, more importantly, we can't.
Right, and so we did meet with PSEG as well and asked them, like, can we find out more about, like, these interconnection agreements in the first place and how that all works, so that, you know, that's what drives private industry to want to locate a battery storage facility as a private use. If you want it as a public use, we would do it as a public use. If you want it as no land use, there would be no code. So that is what the moratorium is all about. It's making it safer, but also, and then there's policy issues, like with cell towers, we say we're willing to accept more of them lower instead of one giant one, right? That's your policy, and no one's changed it since it's been adopted. So
Yeah,
it
but it
serves
hasn't-
the areas it's in, although nobody wants a cell tower near them either, but we all know the service stinks, right? So it's the same thing. Decentralization then, so no one place bears the burden of all, but then then it gets closer in. So it's either further away and then, or
And
it's
large-
closer
further
in.
away and larger,
Further
or
away,
closer
larger,
in, but
closer
smaller,
in,
yeah.
smaller. So that's kind of
Yeah,
the
that might be
debate
the
that
issue
needs
with
to
this
be.
particular one, that it's closer in and large.
And large, and that's, you know, we don't know that someone's gonna
Where we can connect to the grid.
right.
It's directly, there's a 1-to-1 ratio there. It's no
And we're
way
talking
around it.
about electrons,
Yeah,
right?
right.
In the grid, like energy and how it's being stored.
So have we identified these sites throughout the town? And if so, how many?
We've
are there?
identified some of them, yeah, we have.
Well, the problem is
And
most,
it really depends on capacity, But it's not just like you would say a 100 megawatt system is 100 megawatts of energy, but its consumption its discharge is 200 megawatts. So it's like if you imagine a swimming pool, right? It's got one big pipe filling it and one little pipe emptying it. And ultimately, it's going to overflow, so that has to be regulated. And that really depends on points in the grid that can handle those kinds of loads. It's pretty standard stuff in the utility world, but
You can think of it like a water, like it's a catchment, so the water's running, it's like electricity's running, and you can have a catchment system, or you can, it kind of.
yeah, like a turbine or
Yeah.
wind power, any of that. It's the same thing. But I do share your concerns, Rick. I was taken aback by the fear that people had. It's visceral fear. I don't want anybody to have that. So I think this is a good cause to study these things, look at these things, make sure that we're on board, and hopefully the public will understand that, particularly when we have third-party people coming and, looking at the statistic
Right.
relative to the battery type and relative to the facility proposed, because it's specific.
So it turns into a generic sort of larger issue of, looking, and that's what you're doing, balancing social, economic, and environmental considerations all told. And you want to do that across the town, because the moratorium just isn't for this Hampton Bays. It's even someone, at like a place where you want it. Now it's not necessarily wanted unless it's
No, it
done
would
a certain
affect
way
the
or
Bresky
less.
Airport, it affects everywhere. Yeah.
Right. Good.
Rescue's got different authorities controlling them.
Well, the
too.
area near the Bresky Airport.
Again, like I also just, in terms of thinking differently, you have sand mines that are very deep. You could put a gravity battery system, and you wouldn't even see it from the ground. That's also an option. Like, think about
But they're
that.
not near grids necessarily, so that's, they're not near substations, so that's.
Right, you'd have to look at all this
People like to say
comprehensively.
these should not be in residential areas, but most of the substations are in residential areas, and these have to be near substations. So maybe battery energy storage, they're not gonna work in the town, or.
Chemical battery energy storage.
Or maybe
That's what
there's
I'm trying
other,
to say.
maybe there's systems, or maybe there's ways to address the
There's other
concerns
ways
the
to
public
hold
has.
energy.
Or maybe there's a scale that they do work at.
Right. Well, I
So,
think that sums up the
these are-
entire issue of this entire town is one word, is scale.
You know?
And
Well, and-
really,
Or
you
maybe
want to
it's-
titrate
maybe we
it to
need
get it
build
to
a
the
new
right
substation
scale.
out there, where, far away from all the people, but I don't think that works. Yeah,
So-
you think you
so-
have to have substations near people.
And
Typically,
just to
yeah.
be clear, because it can confuse people, a gravity system, is basically a water tower that's filled with water, and the water, as it's discharged, turns a generator and produces electricity.
They're just
and
really
it's cheaper to
tall.
put it up, fill it with water very slowly than compared to the amount of energy that you derive from it when you spill all that water out.
Yeah.
That's a pretty.
They're not that efficient, but yes. you
They're not too
basically-
efficient,
Well,
but
they
they
last
also
longer, right?
require
Than they're-
conversion to AC. These are all DC productions, there's heat loss and all that kind of stuff. So all this stuff is involved in.
You can run an AC motor, you're just pumping the water up.
No, you
You're
have to-
building up
Sounds like 6
potential
months
energy.
when
6
and-
months later, exactly.
Yeah, you're pumping
Well,
the
we
water
can
up,
start
and
this
then
work,
you
and
build
obviously.
potential
the-
energy.
But in
and then
order
you-
to produce it, you're producing
You know.
DC, which has to be inverted to AC.
And
That's a loss.
Ultimately, it's a hydroelectric, right? So you're building up potential energy, you're turning it to kinetic energy when the water comes down. and
We've gone off
using
the
it to
track here.
Turbine, you're basically building a turbine.
In other
Janice, I
words,
think-
there's
Wade
the
would-
industry standards are, there's a whole gradient of types of batteries, and then there's other alternatives, and you'll look at everything and everywhere it could go, and all told, make a decision as to whether or not you want it.
You know,
An
And what's happening.
electrification system illustrating what we currently use for electricity is also important with this. I mean,
Yes, you're
I mean,
using
that's why
fossil
we're doing
fuels.
it.
Right, exactly. And
And
that's,
all level of the government doing their parts. I understand we're going to put the moratorium on and, after the public hearing, but, I mean, let's face it, the Peconic Bay scallops are gone, and, you mentioned the rainstorms. Our climate is changing in slow motion, right before our eyes, and, it's happening over our lifetime. So, this is
And that's so
us
slow.
trying to do our part. We understand, we hear the community, and, we're going to continue working on this because it's the future.
yeah.
so just one other question, I think, to be included in this is you discussed that one of the things that I've always felt that as a town, we have control over what what proposals come forward to us. And that also includes battery type, containment systems, those sorts of things. It's something that we don't have control over if a utility comes in and wants to put a system in on land that they own. We have very little control over that, and I always felt, and correct me if I'm
You're
wrong.
saying it's
because
a public utility.
As a public utility, yeah. We, as a town, actually would have more control over an application of that type to control things like the type of battery, the amount of energy contained and discharged, all those sorts of things.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
that should
you
be
know, what I
included.
heard was like, you know, the mega, like, that was too much. So what is the right number? And
Right.
then we would put a cap at that, you know.
And there was also a
the way
concern-
the
Maybe
model
over a
code
certain
was.
threshold, it becomes a type 1 action, or whatever it is.
Right.
And-
Well,
or
the way the
maybe
model
it's not
code read-
Maybe you can't do that in certain zones over a certain size, you know?
You know, in addition to the safety issues, there was also the concern from residents on, you know, they were gonna be living with this, and there was no known benefit to them other than having energy. I mean, there's no known cost
Community
savings,
benefit,
there's no, you know.
Well, that is a great point, because I would like to institute like Town Law 261 code that enables us to exact public benefits out of different things. And so maybe if you held them back on the level, and in any case, about anything, you hold back, you know, you kind of put a cap on it, and then if there's public benefits associated, it could be, you know, an incentive. So you could do that anywhere in terms of
Well, sort of like what we're-
public benefits, so that the people in the immediate area
With the solar
get a
at the
rebate or a
landfill.
discount or something happens.
Lower utility rates,
Lower
Yeah.
rates.
Right.
Yeah.
There was no
and that's
guarantee of
what we're
lower rates to
doing in the-
anybody for this.
With
And that would
CDG,
be-
with North Sea, the CDG program, Rick, is what we have to identify those interconnect points, you know, where it's cost effective to do that.
But I think-
And one of the
Well, one of the
benefits of
time.
that is that local people in those areas, like we're thinking of a STAR program for seniors or people on fixed income, to help offset the cost of operating their homes, where it becomes problematic.
I
for
understand,
them.
and none of that's related to this project, has never been.
Well, it is in the sense that if you're gonna produce power, you need to store power during the times that you're not generating power. That's the whole point of it, like for renewables. So in a solar array, the sun's out half the day, and then that energy is stored and used during the night. And that's sort of the rotation, and that's where the benefit comes in my view.
Yeah, but they pump it back into the grid, it doesn't necessarily come back. If everybody in Hampton Bays doesn't have a Tesla in their driveway, it's more apt to go east. I mean, it's, you know.
Well, no, because we can control that, and we can stipulate that the amount of power produced, they get it at a rate that's much lower. And so the electron, they're all the same. It depends on where it comes from, but it doesn't really, because you're just doing a total measurement. So say 10% of this is from renewable energy, and 90% is fossil fuel. That 10%, that's the rate that you're gonna get, because we're gonna try to give that to you based on your income and need, and try to help people and what you were discussing before, environmental justice, or I think you were, Rick, environmental justice is part of that, is to help people.
Right. Well, environmental
offset the-
justice is when we say, well, we'll put it over there, but then when you get over there, the people over there say, well, you know, that's not fair to me. So, you know, that's where that decentralization comes in, because if it's one thing near one group, even when you say, you know, so you have to really look at what are these zones then, because there are no industrial zones in Hampton Bays. So they go out of Hampton Bays, you don't benefit from it. There is that, like John is saying, there is some benefit to storing that energy. You can get lower rates, you're more sustainable in a storm. There's reasons to want to be resilient in that, and have, you know,
So,
energy. When the lights
I
go
wanna
out,
go
you have
back-
an option.
I want to go back to the 314-5, the exclusion, and I'm trying to figure out whether we should just leave it there, or whether we should just.
Can we
get-
just remove it? Because
We
if we're
can.
saying
It
if it's
makes
for
any
safety
difference.
issues, it should just be,
If we,
there
get-
should be
well, some
nothing.
people, you know, might think that there's a battery energy storage facility that is coming on town land, and when there isn't, the only.
No, and I didn't mean to, you know,
Yeah,
I'm like
so
bringing
there
forward.
is no.
You know, and we
There's no
could,
plan like
we
that.
could.
Definitely not, and I didn't even know that when I said the demonstration, but I just like thought that
The
out
only
right now.
thing that maybe
So, no.
is the North Sea solar array.
We have
but
solar
you say
array, but
there's no
there's
no
batteries.
batteries.
No,
No.
just
Never
localized
battery
battery
solar
for
will back in.
distribution, for offset, but they're not storage systems.
Right,
There's
no,
bus.
for generators, that's the only thing, but I
Yeah.
would say there, I was just saying that to, say for a demo project, with demonstration. But you can cross all
But
the
that project's
exclusion
already
out.
fully permitted, so
Yeah,
they have everything, right?
Yeah.
right. That's,
So.
I think we should just remove it.
All right, so if we're done discussing this, I think I'll withdraw my motion to approve, and I'll make a motion to amend.
Second?
All right, so making a motion to amend to remove section 314/5, and then we would then have to renumber 314-6 would become dash
Or you just put none.
5. Jim, do you want to do that, or do you just want to have a blank 314-5?
Sure, or we could just,
Say none?
none, that's what I was thinking, just
Yeah, it might be
exclusions, just
simpler.
say none.
Exclusion-
Intentionally left blank.
Yeah, yeah, just put none,
Yeah, or this section left blank, how would,
Yeah, this was a holdover.
I could renumber it if you want, just take out the whole section of exclusion.
Just put none for now. You
Yeah, I
may wanna
think
put
the none
exclusions.
is actually
well,
ineffective.
yeah,
We can do
always-
that when we adopt it.
So just exclusions, we're gonna cross out the following,
I'll cross
we'll
it out,
just
and
say
then
none.
it has to be on your desk for 10 days if there's a cross
Yeah.
out.
What's that?
No, she's right. Just put none.
Put the final version on your desk.
Just put none.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exclusions,
None,
none.
because then
Sandy, you got
that's
this?
clear,
Okay,
that just
so-
shows it.
But two different things were said, so I just want to be clear. Are you leaving the following are excluded from this chapter and
No, we're
then saying
taking, that's all
none?
going.
Or
Just-
you're just saying none?
Right, just, you're leaving the heading exclusions, and then we're gonna write just the word
Okay.
none.
The
And
word
Then all
none.
go.
I think that makes a statement from the board.
Oh,
Okay.
wait, this is a special meeting, so I'm sorry.
Yes.
Forget about the 10 days.
Okay, so I made a motion to make that amendment, seconded by Councilman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, let me make a motion now to approve as amended,
Second?
seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. And there will be a hearing on August 8th at 1 PM. Good. All right, so on the next resolution, which is 908 of 2023, I want to make a motion to substitute ID number 43877. You have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilor Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now I'd like to make a motion to approve ID number 43877, authorizing emergency rental of tractors and container services for waste management.
Second.
Second, okay, second by Councilman Bouvier. On the motion, Tom, can I bring you forward? Yeah. All right. So, as the board's aware, we had a whole series of unfortunate events involving our transfer station, one truck out for repairs, two trucks simultaneously failed, and we ended up having to close a number of our transfer stations, so we kept North Sea open throughout, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor.
And I think Hampton Bays is now up and running.
Hampton Bays is now up and running. Sag Harbor is now up and running. West Hampton, we expect to have green bags open by noon tomorrow. We had planned some sidewalk improvements at West Hampton, and we were actually able to get that done while we were closed as well. So
And, so by, Friday, everything is back to normal, or?
yes, Friday afternoon.
Okay, and so this basically is somewhat retroactive because you've already taken the steps, right?
Yes, correct. So we
And
took
I
steps.
appreciate that, and you and I were in communication, and we, I said, do what you need to do to get these places open, and so.
I think the whole board was in communication.
Yeah.
We were. We took a number of
I
different
appreciate
steps. One was to essentially contract with the locations that we dispose of our waste at to actually bring trailers to us instead of us bringing our trailers to them. We filled those 100 cubic yard trailers, the extremely large trailers you see on the highway that are 50 feet long and 12 feet high. So we filled those with municipal solid waste and construction and demolition debris. So we were able to clean out our bulk pits. We also contracted with Gilroy Contracting to haul trailers for us on Tuesday to help us get Hampton Bays up and running. And then in tandem with that, we rented 2 vehicles from Ryder in order to replace the tractors that were down and to help us catch up, so to put all of our drivers in trucks. Currently, all of our trucks are back on the road. We're down to 4 trucks total in our operation. We lost 2 trucks in April. We have an order in for a new truck to replace that tractor that we lost. And
The fire.
yeah, due to the fire. So
And
we
that was
lost.
our newest truck.
Sadly, that was our
Tractor.
2018 Mack that we
Mhm.
lost. In addition to that, we lost a 2012 roll-off, which is a truck that typically hauls dumpsters. So we run 30 and 40-yard dumpsters for our white goods, for our concrete and demolition debris. So those 2 trucks were out in April. The 2012 roll-off, we have at Suffolk Brake right now. It's being repaired. They were able to salvage this truck for us, so we expect that back shortly. It's in paint right now, which is an excellent sign. We should have it next week or 2, maybe 3 weeks. But other than that, we have 3 tractors running and 1 roll-off running. We have a significant amount of money in our equipment line, which we have a plan to spend the remainder of that this year. We have 1 tractor on order. We're going to order another tractor this year, since the remainder of our fleet is from 2003, 2005, and 2012. So tractor trailers last a while, but these are extremely up there in age. So we have
When do we expect the new one to come in?
the new one we
order?
expect in October. It's a brand spanking new one, but I'm going to look at buying some not as old used trucks.
Mhm.
Tractor trailers, they run well north of 500, 600,000 miles for their service life.
So they have been replaced.
We have been replacing them. It's just we buy one every
And
5 or
we
6
have
years.
a small fleet.
Yes.
And these are a series of very unfortunate.
And these
incidents.
trucks nowadays, they run about $220,000 for these tractors. So we did receive insurance money for the one that we lost. We're going to roll that into our new truck, and I'm going to start looking for some used trucks so that we can kind of make our money last a little longer and have a truck or 2 on backup instead of having to rent vehicles. So the 2 rentals that we have, we're going to have one for a month to help us get through the backlog, and we have the second one for 2 weeks in order to help us catch up.
So, Tom, I'd just like to commend you, because this was like the perfect storm of things happening, that we completely lost our ability to manage waste, and I want to thank you for, picking up that burden.
It's
Ed.
all waste management. Everybody doubled down. We were able to get parts in to get these trucks fixed. We had people driving to Farmingdale to Ronkonkoma to pick these vehicles up, and our mechanics have been fantastic to get everything back on the road. So it's
I mean,
been-
I realize it's inconvenient to some of our residents, but manageable inconvenience. And this was something that's never happened before, at least since I've been.
No,
here.
and I spoke with Ed. He's been here 7 years. It hasn't happened since then. I spoke to Christine as well to ask for some guidance on this, and she hadn't heard of anything like this happening
It
before.
was just a
So
pure coincidence that the 2 of those trucks died at the
And
same
it was
moment?
right, it was like Friday. It
Yeah.
was right
Bang,
at the
bang.
start of the weekend, so it was,
we had a cracked exhaust manifold. We had a regeneration issue on one of our trucks. We had the dashboard go out on the other, and when the dashboard goes out, you lose your air, you lose a number of significant features that keeps this truck off the road. And then we had a broken bumper on our roll-off, and those are parts that we just don't have in stock, like things that just don't break every day.
What's a regeneration issue?
I believe it had to do with the turbo. So.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you to our waste management staff, because really they were the ones taking the brunt of the frustrations of the residents who are, understandably, they came in, they thought it was open. And I think we're going to have a better plan in place if, God forbid, this should ever happen in the future, where we get the word out better and people know what's going on.
Yeah, in the
because it
next
was-
couple town board meetings, I expect to go out to bid for these emergency services so that we don't have to go to a contract, so that I can be able to run POs if I do need an extra truck or I do need a trailer hauled. And then we're going to work on our communication system as well in order to get these notifications out to our residents. Because in some cases, we were able to open a transfer station just for green bags to help get the solid waste out of people's houses, but we didn't have a commingled trailer open yet. So we were able to partially open stations to get services close to people's homes. And I think it was very helpful to tell people what was open where, and honestly give them a timeline that they can plan on. Because if I've got cardboard in my garage, I can hold on to cardboard for a week, but if I have to hold on to garbage, it's another story. So
Well, let me also thank you and the staff at Waste Management for doing everything you can to address what was, I think, an unpredictable situation. And, you know, things happen. You prepare as best you can for everything you think might go wrong, and sometimes everything goes wrong at the same moment, and you just have to sort of modify and figure out a solution, which you did by going to outside contractors and vendors and bringing in equipment and maximizing the containers you had and the equipment. But I also wanted to offer an apology to the residents that used the facility. I know people were inconvenienced. We did our best. We kept North Sea open. Maybe it was a little further for some people, but I know some people showed up at transfer stations that they thought would be open and they were closed. And I know it's frustrating when you filled up your vehicle with your garbage and you have to go home with it again. So, you know, we do the best we can. And, you know, we're public servants and civil servants, and we have, I think, great people, very dedicated staff, and I just, you know, stuff happens, and it's unfortunate, but we did our best to get everything back and running as quick as possible.
Yeah. I'd also like to note that when a truck breaks, our mechanics look at it, and we take the safety of our staff to the utmost importance. So it's not something that we can ignore and put a truck on the road to keep it operational. So we do take the repair of those things
I
very
appreciate
importantly.
that. Other drivers
So-
as well.
I was
Yes.
waiting for you to say waste happens.
I just wanted to apologize for the inconvenience that it may have caused some of our residents.
It was.
And Sunday was definitely tough. Our attendants were having a pretty difficult time trying to relay the information to our constituents. But by Monday, there was a noticeable improvement, and everybody was very understanding of what was going on.
I was
So-
understandably shocked there were that many people headed to the transfer station in that storm that we had on Sunday.
Well, it is Sunday afternoon, and a number of people do head out
Yeah.
on Sunday. So we are a 24/7 not a 24/7. We're a 7-day-a-week operation. So
Well, not Wednesdays?
Wednesdays are only closed at West Hampton and Sag Harbor.
Oh.
North Sea and Hampton Bays are 7 days a week.
Okay.
So.
And so it's no small job. The waste
No.
in Southampton Town is huge. You know, people don't realize when they bring their 2 little bags that there's probably 12,000 of those right behind it. So you have any idea how many trucks we missed, how much tonnage we had to back up on?
The tonnage, I'll have to get a number on. I have it in yards. For our concrete and demolition debris, we hauled out 400 cubic yards of material in 2 days. So we have a significant amount of material coming in. And then as far as our municipal solid waste, beyond what was already packed into our compacting trailers, we took out 220 cubic yards of compacted garbage out of our facility in 2 days.
Yeah,
And as we're hauling trailers to try and open these sites back up, the trailers are constantly filling back up. Everybody
people
has a
out
different
here.
schedule, so
A lot of people, you know, we don't handle all of the town's waste, only.
we actually handle a very small portion of the town's waste. I believe it's estimated at 15%, 20% at the
10
most.
to 15, I think.
Yeah, so,
10
and
to
at
15.
80,000 regular season residents, like, that is a tremendous amount of material, so.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we have the new resolution before us. We had this is ID 43877. There was a motion, and let's see who's co-sponsoring this. Myself, Councilman Bouvier, and Councilwoman McNamara. Is that the same as on the original?
Yes.
Yes,
All right, just double checking.
and
So,
same second.
all right, second by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Okay. That's all I have for the special meeting. Is there any other
Thanks,
business?
Tom.
Hearing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.